Coming up on the show, a letter with a whole lot of questions and one big denial from the man at the center. We're going to head to Washington, D.C. to see how the new developments in the Jeffrey Epstein case impacts President Trump. Also, a community lights up the night with candles in color, marking 1 year since heartbreak struck at Appalachian High School. And hear how the message of love refuses to fade. And your pets may know more about science than you think. We're going to look at how one class at Emory University is uncovering the secret behind those wagging tails and curious purrs. This is The Take. Let's get it. Hello and welcome. I'm Chesley McNeil, and this is The Take, where we go above and beyond the headlines and we look at the why and how stories are impacting you and your community. We invite the experts in to share their take on today's top stories and try to have a little bit of fun as well. Let's start you off with this morning. South Korea's top diplomat is in the United States today at a tense moment for relationships between the two countries. A visit comes as about 300 South Korean nationals were detained here in Georgia after ICE and other law enforcement raided the Hyundai plant last week. Korean Air says it could start flying home detainees tomorrow. South Korea considers the United States one of its most important allies, but now that relationship could be in jeopardy. That has Koreans living here in the United States on edge about what could happen next. Here to touch on this is Sarah Parks. She's the president of the Korean American Coalition here in Metro Atlanta. Welcome to the show.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We understand you just got back from Savannah. What is it like there, as you have been visiting there, and what are people telling you?
This has been a moment of shock for communities throughout Georgia, including Korean community. It was not really about just the number or the legal question, but it was about families and neighbors whose lives were suddenly disrupted. These were their friends, or these were the communities that are near and far in Georgia. Organizations and parents are unsure how to address or reassure the community and their children, and small businesses are worried about what could happen next. And we have to kind of hear them first where they were and were able to share resources and information as they were coming through. At the same time, community believes deeply in America's fairness. We respect the rules of law, and we also believe in due process must be applied fairly. And we are going to find out more information throughout. So communities are so hopeful, but asking a lot of questions that every person deserves to be treated with dignity while the facts are being reviewed. So people are looking into more sources and informations to how this play out. If you're asking about Savannah community in general, in Savannah, many of the community members know the workers personally through churches, restaurants, or temporary housings like guest house or assisting them at hotels. They were not strangers. They were neighbors. They prayed together, and also they share meals, and they offer resources for them to temporarily stay, and also they welcome them as visitors. So I was able to hear their experience with these workers that are detained. And that was very insightful. Local churches, community leaders, and volunteers are working together to inform the public that we are not alone. And as America, we are going to figure this out together. Yeah. Community members, again, and churches and leaders are providing update, sharing legal resources, and offering emotional and practical support, just sharing that these resources are available for them when they're ready to receive. Yeah. Koreans and Asian American media has been too quick to share information, which helps. But importantly, the real response, like support system and care, has to come from community itself. So communicating movers and shakers and community at the ground level, that was very meaningful for my visit. And I'm hopefully going back again pretty soon. And faith leaders, civic groups, and residents are stepping up, but they're also closely monitoring so that this will be treated with fairness.
Sarah, talk to me about the younger generation of Korean Americans. Do you think this is going to have lasting effects, long-term effects on them?
Definitely, as well as Korean Americans live in US, as well as those live internationally.
Hmm.
The footage of these being skilled worker being shackled, once it was praised one of the largest investment that was done to Georgia, and how it really symbolized the strong relationship and trust that Georgia, Korea have. So this is definitely very troubling and questioning to see this. And also, we are constantly living in this type of information and facts that just keep coming. So yes, people are staying closely monitoring and waiting for more information to be clear. And also, once these workers arrive to Korea, I'm sure more information will come out.
Yeah. Do you think this will make Korean companies think twice about expanding here to the United States, especially here in Georgia, now that this is taking place?
Once again, Georgia and Korea have built a trust through hard work and many years of working and over decades. So this incident could strain that trust. And naturally, people in Korea can question how to better strategize to work with US and especially Georgia. At the end of the day, Georgia is placed to do business with. So I see this as more of opportunity. It can strengthen the visa system, making it transparent and fair. Companies can continue to invest with confidence and workers can come here with dignity and security, but that it will take a lot of work. It will take a lot of work because these workers were here with V1 and ESTA visas that were often used as it's been used for a long time, that because they weren't able to properly get the temporary or short-term visa to actually work here. They are highly skilled professionals and under contract installations and transfer specialized knowledge, they needed to this visa to be permitted. And also the company had to invest in that process. So there is still a lot of gap, but then there are a lot of work to be done as well.
All right. Sarah Park, thank you so much for coming back from Savannah and getting on with us this morning and sharing that insight. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, take care. All right, folks, don't go anywhere. You're watching The Take. We're back right after this. Welcome back. House Democrats have released what appears to be an image of a suggestive birthday message that President Trump allegedly sent to Jeffrey Epstein in 2003. The card, part of a trove of subpoenaed Epstein files. Joining us now is NBC Washington correspondent Alice Barr. Hello, Alice. The president denying having anything to do with this letter, and the White House even arguing that it's a fake and that he didn't even sign it. What's behind putting this out? Do you know?
So the House Oversight Committee has been looking into the Epstein investigation, excuse me, and trying to respond to, calls from many people of all political stripes, many people in President Trump's base that want to see all the Epstein files released, something that, has been discussed for a long time on the campaign trail by President Trump and those around him, most especially. And initially, yesterday, House Democrats on that oversight committee, they released this letter, the one in question. And then shortly after that, the committee went ahead and just released everything from this new trove of documents that they had subpoenaed from Jeffrey Epstein's estate. And they are in this kind of tricky spot where they have said that the House Oversight Committee has said it's going to get a hold of everything it possibly can and then go ahead and make it public. And as they're doing that, they're facing some pushback from the White House, which has now said, well, while President Trump has said he wants, everything public, he has also said that he believes a lot of what's happening right now is a hoax perpetuated by Democrats, as he's put it, despite the fact, again, that it's been largely Republicans that have been pushing for a long time to have these documents released. And President Trump has also said that he thinks there is a lot in the Epstein files that could wrongly implicate people. And so now here's an instance where this is likely embarrassing to the president to have this close of a connection drawn between himself and Jeffrey Epstein. We did know that they socialized in the 90s and then had some kind of falling out more than 2 decades ago. But to see it kind of in black and white that, they apparently had a friendship, if nothing else, that's what this birthday letter would suggest. So the Republicans on that committee, are kind of dealing with some pushback and the potential for embarrassment while also trying to uphold their promises to be transparent and to release everything they possibly can from the files.
Yeah. We touched earlier on ICE actions, a raid here in Georgia at a Hyundai plant. Now it seems to be moving on to Chicago. What do we know about this new operation?
To have a real crackdown in Chicago on crime and on immigration as well. And the Department of Homeland Security has confirmed that it's launched a new ICE operation in Chicago. They're calling it Operation Midway Blitz and have sent in ICE agents and, federal reinforcements. To this point, there has been no sign of threatened National Guard deployment. That's something President Trump has been speaking about quite a bit in order to crack down on crime in Chicago. So no sign of the National Guard, but a surge in federal resources focused on detentions of undocumented migrants. And we anticipate a similar process to what we've seen here in Washington, D.C. and other cities in terms of checkpoints and just stepped up efforts to identify people who are in this country illegally and to detain them.
Alice, it seems like the state and city leaders are calling this all unnecessary, but there seems to be a new Supreme Court ruling that may limit their pushback. What's the High Court saying?
Right. So the Supreme Court ruled in a separate case in Los Angeles that restrictions on ICE operations in LA should be lifted. That puts a hold on a lower court ruling that had blocked patrols and raids based on broad criteria like just speaking Spanish. The White House is rejecting allegations from many critics that this is all racial profiling. The White House insisting ICE detentions are based on a multitude of factors. Chesley.
All right. Alice, thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. Have a great day. We got plenty more stories for you coming up, folks. This is The Take. We'll be back right after this.
Talking about this Department of War. So we won the First World War, we won the Second World War, we won everything before that and in between, and then we decided to go woke and we changed the name to Department of Defense. So we're going Department of War.
President Trump ordering a sweeping change at the Pentagon, renaming the overseeing agency the Department of War. Officially, it's called the Department of Defense, but President Trump's executive order allows the Pentagon to use the secondary title, Department of War, and for the secretary to be called the Secretary of War. Here to explain more of the move and what it all means is friend of the show, Emory political science professor Andrea Gillespie. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so at one point it was called the Department of War, then it got changed to the Department of Defense, and now he's trying to change it back to the Department of War. Why the switch? Why do we keep switching this up?
Well, this is a marketing change, and it's largely a symbolic gesture because the president cannot officially change the Defense Department to the War Department without congressional approval. So just for some context, it was the National Security Act of 1947 that, among other things, created a Department of Defense. And it's really interesting. If you go back and you read the statute, what the National Security Act of 1947 was doing was it was taking some agencies that did exist and it morphs them into the entities that we know today. So it helped to create, goes from the OSS to what we now know as the CIA. It creates the National Security Council. It changes the War Department to the Department of the Army so that it can create a Department of the Navy and so that it can create the Air Force, because the Air Force was the Army Air Corps during World War II. And then the Department of Defense is giving it civilian control, and it's supposed to provide some type of coordination between the agencies. So thus it's putting the Secretary of Defense over all of these other departments because he's the one that's going to have to coordinate with them. So, I mean, it's not as simple as President Trump suggested. And that's in that comment, he can't do it unilaterally. And there is still sort of the idea that he is making a very symbolic move more than he is making a substantive move.
So what is the meaning behind that? What he's done is given them the ability to call it within themselves. So kind of like an in-house type of a name?
It is an in-house name. So, I mean, yesterday I tried, like when I put in defense.gov yesterday, that it switched over to like war.gov. So
Oh, wow.
similar to like if you still use twitter.com, right? It'll automatically switch you over to x.com. What you will probably see happening is in a lot of official documentation and things are still going to be referred to as the Department of Defense, but at least amongst Trump loyalists and within his administration, he's going to refer to DOD as the Department of War. And so we're going to use them interchangeably. And colloquially, but we won't necessarily do that in terms of official correspondence and things. Even though that executive order does allow for insignia and letterhead and things to change.
Yeah. How does this fit in terms of renaming other agencies?
Well, I mean, some of those are about restructuring entirely. This isn't about restructuring. This is about branding and marketing. And so while I certainly want to give President Trump his propers for branding and marketing in his private life, right here, I think we have to ask, well, what is the political import? So one, it creates a semblance of activity where perhaps a whole lot doesn't exist. But this is actually being done at a great cost because it costs a lot to kind of come up with new brands and redo letterhead and all of those kinds of things. And then also it's really important for us to think about what does it mean to rename the Department of Defense the Department of War? And then one of your first real public discussions about it is about talking about, perhaps somewhat inaccurately, sending the Defense Department to an American city to help deter crime. So, I mean, it's to make American defense look muscular. He argues that a defense kind of puts you on a bit of a posture. It doesn't allow you to sort of talk about the offensive. But that does raise other questions about legality. It raises questions about sort of, the post-World War II world order where we talk about actually not going out and being aggressive and waiting until you're attacked to try to use lethal and military force. But a lot of this is about posturing more so than it is about anything substantive.
So when we look back about a couple of years from now, will the renaming be remembered as a symbolic political flourish or something totally different?
Well, I mean, I think it depends on where we are in terms of American government. If our institutions hold, I suspect that we will revert back to kind of consistently calling the Department of Defense the Department of Defense. If a Democrat succeeds President Trump as president, they will undoubtedly officially change sort of, all the internal nomenclature back to the Department of Defense. If America takes a more authoritarian turn and we are less democratic than we have historically been, or if you see another MAGA Republican come in and try to take over, as president of the United States, then we might actually see a certain type of consistency. I think the big thing that we need to think about is just as it took a congressional act to create the Department of Defense and to rename the Department of War in 1947, I think the next move will be, do we see Congress actually take this up to actually provide the statutory support for this? And in particular, whether or not this renaming in the U.S. Senate could actually qualify per the parliamentarian as being something that could fall under reconciliation, because that's going to change the vote threshold by which you need to be able to get it on the floor. So if it falls under reconciliation, you don't actually need, you can make it filibuster proof so that you only need 51 votes in order to get the discussion to advance. But if it's just symbolic and they don't see any monetary aspect to the naming of the bill, then you probably need 60 votes in order to get it onto the floor, at which point I don't think even in this Senate with Republican control that you could make that happen, and this really is rendered a symbolic act.
Got it. Professor Gillespie, thanks so much for joining us. Thanks for your insight.
Thank you.
All right, take care. All right, people with higher incomes are changing their shopping habits. We're going to talk all about it with our consumer expert, Morgan Ward, when we return. Stay right there. Welcome back to the show. Dollar stores aren't just for those shopping with a tight budget anymore. Even six-figure earners are starting to pile in. Time to bring in friend of the show, consumer expert Morgan Ward. Welcome back to the show, Morgan. How you doing?
Great. Thanks so much for having me.
All right, we got these high-income shoppers now starting to pull up at dollar stores. How does that change the way working families feel about shopping there?
Well, I think that what's happening is that people, working families and more affluent customers are starting to be really aware of and concerned about how they're spending their money. And so as much as 2/3 of the new dollar store consumers are actually people who make over $100,000. And my guess is that probably working class families feel some affinity towards the fact that other people who are in better financial positions, but still are concerned, are also shopping in the same place. It's less stigmatizing in a lot of ways when there's both high income and lower income shoppers in one place.
Yeah, so it becomes a little bit more socially acceptable across the board then?
Yeah, it democratizes in some ways shopping in a lower tier store.
Yeah, we understand that shoppers are saying that going to grocery stores feel overwhelming. There's too many choices and too much stress.
Yeah, it's really true. People make tons of decisions every day, probably up to 50 just normal everyday decisions, but adding on top of that the grocery store decisions, which, you see new products, these products have new labels, we see more and more types of products, and so people are getting what they call aisle anxiety, meaning that as they're shopping and they're wanting to make good choices and they want to spend their money well, they're starting to feel real anxiety and spending more and more time trying to make optimal choices, as much as I think 4 minutes on each product, some people report. So it's becoming kind of a stressful experience buying your food.
Wow. So like the labels, you mentioned labels like organic or low fat, does it make it easier or just more confusing?
The labels make it easier if the meaning is very obvious. So things like sustainable or green can actually be pretty abstract concepts. You don't know exactly what they mean. And so those kinds of labels where you can't figure out exactly what this label is telling you and what you should infer from it make those decisions even harder, because you have to sort of do some guesswork about what does green really mean,
Absolutely. Shoppers say they feel that they want to be more sustainable or they want more sustainability, but when the prices are tight, does that usually win out?
Well, what it looks like is that it doesn't win out as much as you would think. So there's something called the attitude behavior gap, where people endorse that they would do something like buy a sustainable product, buy an environmentally friendly product, but then when the rubber hits the road, meaning when they're actually about to make the choice, they opt for something cheaper. And you can imagine in an economy like ours, where people have a lot of uncertainty about their own wealth and what they can do with their finances, that when you're making these kind of decisions that you end up prioritizing something like spending less money rather than doing something sort of good for the world, which feels much more abstract.
All right, Morgan, thanks so much for your insight. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
All right, have a great day. All right, there's a new film shedding light on women abducted still ahead. That's going to be coming up. But right after the break, we're going to check in with the founder of an organization designed to support the families and the communities around Appalachia High School. We'll talk to them coming up as well. We'll be back right after this.
To my fellow students, I want you to know this. Enjoy your life, live it to the fullest. Don't waste any time worrying about tomorrow, because tomorrow is never promised.
I'm Taylor Jones, just one of the students wounded in last year's mass shooting at Appalachia High School. 2 students and 2 teachers were killed. Father and son have been charged. But last week, on the day marking 1 year since the attack, hundreds of people came to reflect on the lives lost and offered prayers for a community and that it was still trying to heal. Back with us today is Layla Renee Contreras. She's the founder of Change for Chee. Layla, what was it like to stand with the community at the visual 1 year later?
I think it was very powerful and meaningful to our community. Giving them a space to really come together, to turn their grief into generosity. I think it was very powerful for our community.
Yeah. You called it a day of prevailing love, and it was really capturing the spirit of trying to heal the community. Did it actually do that? Is it what you guys have been fighting for?
So actually, the Day of Prevailing Love was from the school side, and that's what the school system has done. I think they achieved their goal. I think a lot of students that did attend, that went to the school, did feel like they gave back. But our Change for Chee initiative, we actually did a candlelight vigil in honor of the 4 that we lost, and we also did a canned food drive the day after. So we just wanted to give the kids like a space off of campus, which is really important because it gave them an opportunity to gather, grieve, and heal without being there at the building where the tragedy occurred.
Yeah. What part of the visual, or what moment during the visual would you say that will stay with you forever?
I think just hearing Taylor Jones really being brave enough to speak up about her experience and everything she's gone through. I know she's really had a difficult year, but I think just hearing that she survived in her journey is most impactful. I think everyone really clung on to what she was saying and listening to her. And that's what I'm hoping that a lot of adults moving forward will really listen to our kids and as well as the families that lost their children.
Yeah. Speaking of the kids, students, what were some of the other ones saying?
They were just in shock. I think the whole weekend we were just very holding in our breath. And then when the day finally came, we were sort of able to exhale. And, they were able to give back and they were able to sort out a whole pallet of food donations that we were able to collect for the community. And I think that it's important for the kids to really say their voice and speak their truth, even when their voice is shaking, right?
Yeah.
Because it's important for young people to really share their experience.
Yeah. What message inside the school do you think the community wanted, the school wanted the community here through the visual that you put together?
I want everyone to see that our community can gather. You don't need a title. No title is necessary to be a leader in your community. And us gathering as we did really showed that. We had about 250, 300 people attend our community-led vigil. And we're very grateful for our local Home Depot, Starbucks, and our Hobby Lobby and Dollar Tree. We were just really embracing one another. And I think that's something our school system can show, that we don't need them to gather together.
Yeah. Layla, thanks so much for joining us. Thanks so much for your insight.
Thank you so much.
All right. Take care. All right. You're looking at the King and Queen building there and the sunshine before it. A few clouds over in the sky, but not going to rob us of the sunshine today. We're going to have plenty of it across the forecast area. Beautiful day on tap, folks. Very comfortable on the outside. Temperatures will only heat up into around 80, 81 for an afternoon high. We should be around 86 this time of year. We talk about humidity creeping in, that kind of thing. Well, we don't have to worry about that today. Hopefully you get a chance to get out and enjoy it. All right, across the country, black women and girls go missing at an alarming rate. Yeah, yet their cases are often receive less attention than others. Data from the FBI's National Crime Information Center shows that more than 546,000 missing persons are reported that were filed in the U.S. in 2022, and more than 30% involved black people. It also found that black women and girls made up nearly 40%, or more than 64,000 of all the missing women cases reported. And those numbers aren't just statistics. They're also behind a recent Netflix film, which is using drama to drive awareness to spark conversations about how we protect young women. With us now with more on this is Hunter Gilmore, a true crime journalist, producer, and screenwriter. Her Hunting for Answers podcast focuses on the often overlooked cases of missing and murdered black women and girls. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Chesley, for having me.
Oh, absolutely. Why was this so important to get voices behind it?
It's so important to get voices behind this because it is a national epidemic that we are dealing with. When you take a look at the numbers and how they are disproportionately impacting black women and girls across the nation, it's a serious issue that we're dealing with. And so, movies and films like Abducted at a HBCU really do shine awareness on it, but then also spark that dialogue that we really need to help bring this issue to the forefront.
Yeah. What keeps you motivated when it's such a heavy and a heartbreaking topic such as this?
It is very heartbreaking, but what keeps me motivated is, one, the fact that I am a black woman, so it's really hard not to care about these things. I only imagine if it was my mom or my aunt or my sister. It's extremely devastating for many of these families, and oftentimes they have to depend on themselves or rally on the community to really get the support that they need when they can't rely on institutions that are supposed to be there to help. So it's, a very heartbreaking situation for many families, but I'm very dedicated to this because if I'm not talking about it, who's talking about it? If no one's talking about this, then how are we going to really get the attention that we need on this?
Yeah, speaking of the attention, you see a story like this. What's the biggest truth that you hope comes out of it?
The biggest truth that I hope comes out of this is that results happen. I pray that over these next few years and in the time ahead that we see these numbers start to decrease. At the top of the segment, you named some of those statistics out there. 37% of Black people are account for these missing persons cases. So it's a disparity that runs deep, and so yeah.
Why do you think they're not getting the attention that they deserve?
Well, there's a lot of reasons why these cases don't get the attention that they deserve. One is, of course, the media attention and kind of what mainstream media tends to lean more towards. Oftentimes, cases involving Black women and girls receive less media attention than their white counterparts. Also, many of these cases, authorities don't take the necessary action in the beginning. Lots of families may report, a loved one missing and they get labeled a runaway. Or, I was talking with one family recently and they were saying how the investigators were like, oh, this type of thing happens, and that shouldn't be the type of response that families get.
All right, this is at the heart of all your work. What's the one message that you don't want us to forget, or you want the people out there watching to forget?
I don't want viewers to forget that this is a real issue going on. Don't forget to stay vigilant in your communities, to look out for one another, to practice safe practices to keep yourself and others around you safe. So, we're talking about Abducted at a HBCU for college students, making sure that you're traveling in groups, making sure that you have someone who knows your location, make sure you're not putting private information online, talking to strangers, accepting rides from people you don't know. These are all things that seem very, simple and we kind of don't think about on a day-to-day basis, but they really do. These small steps can make big impact.
Absolutely. Hunter Gilmore, thanks so much for joining us. Thanks for your insight today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Coming up on the show, we're going to talk to CNN's Maribel Aber about how our money matters. We'll be back right after this. Obamacare tax credits just became the hottest bargaining chip in the countdown to a possible shutdown. CNN's Maribel Aber joins us now from the NASDAQ market site in New York. Good morning, Maribel.
Good morning, Chesley.
Hey, it sounds like the big question is, will extending these become costly to the voters, or will it just buy time?
Right, Chesley. It's not often that an impending government shutdown might actually benefit healthcare costs for millions. The enhanced tax breaks under the Affordable Care Act, commonly known as Obamacare, are set to expire at year's end. So lawmakers face a shutdown deadline on October 1st. And unless they can strike a funding deal, Democrats could use those negotiations to leverage an extension of the Obamacare tax subsidies for millions of Americans. And without a deal, the subsidies will still continue next year, but at a lower rate, making coverage more expensive. Open enrollment in the ACA's health insurance marketplaces begins on November 1st. Chesley.
We'll see. All right. So we got a former Meta executive taking the company to court, alleging that major security flaws happened inside of WhatsApp.
So that ex-Meta employee alleges that the company's WhatsApp messaging service contains security failures that potentially compromise user privacy. The former staffer says he discovered that around 1,500 WhatsApp engineers had unrestricted access to sensitive user data. His lawsuit also claims that Meta leadership, including CEO Mark Zuckerberg, terminated him after he came forward. The employee filed a complaint with OSHA in January, documenting what he called systemic retaliation. Meta says that complaint was dismissed. The lawsuit shows the following month, Meta included the whistleblower in a round of layoffs, citing poor performance. A Meta spokesperson disputed the whistleblower's claims in a statement and downplayed his role and ranking at the company. Chesley.
All right. Maribel, some people out there use the hookup, when it comes to Amazon Prime as far as shipping goes, but that got axed, right?
That hookup got axed. Beginning October 1st, Chesley, Amazon is eliminating its Prime invitee perk, so that lets Prime members share their free, shipping benefit beyond their household. Well, moving forward, customers will have to sign up for their own Prime membership to get that free shipping. Signups for Prime invitee ended in 2015, and the company says fewer than 1% of current Prime members will be affected. Customers can still sign up for the Amazon Family program, which allows people to share their Prime benefits as long as they live at the same address. And that's the key. You got to live in the same address. Chesley.
Same household. I get it. All right. So McDonald's is bringing down some prices and bringing back a fan favorite.
Reviving its extra value meals with new budget-friendly items, Chesley. The discount menu was discontinued in 2019. It returns with 8 new meal deals featuring several Mickey D's favorites like the Big Mac, Chicken McNuggets, Egg McMuffin, and Quarter Pounder, plus a beverage and a side. So, prices vary by location, but McDonald's says the combos will save customers as much as 15% over buying each one individually. As with most meal deals, time is limited, so they're going to go away again at year's end. But Chesley, you know what all McDonald's really needs to do? And it needs to do it perfectly. Hot, salty fries 24/7, like at 9:45 a.m. We should be able to get them.
Yes, indeed. I'm with you, especially at a lower price. We'll take it.
Yes.
Take it. Thanks a lot, Maribel. Really appreciate it.
You got it.
All right. Well, you don't need a pet whisperer to understand what your pet is trying to say to you. And Emery Press is going to break that down for us right after the break. Stay right there. All right, from fetch to feline fuzziness, your pet may be trying to tell you more about science than you think. Now, one professor at Emory University has built an entire class around what our furry friends can teach us. Let's bring in Dr. Natalia Bayona Vasquez to dig into this biology of our pets and why their behavior is more than just cute and cuddly, right? Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, all right, so what gave you this idea to build a whole college class around our pets?
That's a great question that I get very often. So I'm a biologist, I'm a wildlife geneticist. So I don't study pets themselves, but look, so many people, I have a dog, I'm a pet lover. So what inspired me to create this course was realizing that pets can spark that scientific curiosity, right? Our love for pets is a natural way to get students excited about asking questions and science. So that's my inspiration for this course.
So how do you introduce first your students to the science of pets? What hooks them in?
Yeah, so that's a great question because in our course, we cover different kinds of topics, biological topics. We talk about the evolution of pets and humans and how those are integrated with each other. We talk about pet behavior. One of the premises of our course is, do dogs really love us? So we talk about the science behind those kind of experiments. And we also talk about the impacts of pets in our environment. So it's a sweet deal of topics for students to get really diving into pet biology.
We've seen like the pet whisperer. You teach more than just that, right?
So I teach a little bit more than just that, but I'm not as expert as the pet whisperer. But I would like to bring to this point, when we're studying pet behavior, we actually see professionals doing behavioral tests on pets. So we have partnered with the Atlanta Humane Society. We go and learn about the amazing labor and work that they do every day, but also we see their professionals performing a behavioral test on dogs. So then back in the classroom, students can use behavioral databases that have been collected for thousands of pets so they can answer their own scientific questions, like different kinds of projects.
Yeah. How much of it is textbook and how much of it is hands-on?
Actually, we read 3 books during our class. We read one book on domesticated animals, but these are not textbooks like those giant textbooks, kind of textbooks that you see. We read a book on domesticated animals, we read a book on dog behavior, and then we read a book on cat evolution. So it's a lot of reading components, but also we also have a project development and project communication components to our course.
So I have to ask the question, do our pets love us?
That's a great question, and I think the science is still ambivalent. I think, like, as a pet owner, I want to say yes, but I think the question is still up for grabs.
Oh, wow. What's the sure signs that your pet may not love you?
Well, so there's a lot of research that has been done in terms of how a lot of the dog responses that we see are just associations. So they sit because they associate that with a treat, right? So a lot of the theories behind it, like, do dogs are loyal companions just because association to shelter, to food, to resources, right? Instead of that real love sentiment that we as humans feel. But I think that there has been some psychological kind of research that has shown that dogs for sure feel a secure attachment to their owners, that it might be one of those components of love.
Supposed to be man's best friend, right? When you
That's right.
when you were preparing for this course, did anything surprise you when you were studying the response of humans in pets?
Yeah, I think like a lot of things surprise me. As I mentioned, I'm a biologist, but I'm a wildlife biologist. So learning about the domestication process and the evolution of pets, specifically how the evolution of cats is completely different than the evolution of pets, and hence that explains why their behaviors are different too. So I think a lot of things surprise me, and I think that's the fun of science. Even if we're experts in a specific field, there's always so much more that you can learn.
All right, I got a student watching right now, right? 30 seconds, go ahead and sell that student to take your course.
That's a great point. I'd say that it doesn't matter if you have a science heart or not scientific heart. If you love pets, this is the course for you to take, because we're going to take advantage of that love to encourage you to discover new questions and ask your own projects and do your own fun research. So I think that's one of the things that I enjoy the most. I'm not telling my students what to do. They are the ones developing the things that they want to do, everything around pets.
There you have it. A lot of petting going on in Dr. Vasquez's class. Really appreciate you joining us today, and thanks for the insight.
Thank you so much for the invitation.
Oh, absolutely. All right. Another look at your forecast and my final take when we come back. Stay right there. Well, it's going to be a beautiful day. I mean, a beautiful day. 81 degrees for the afternoon high temperature under mostly sunny skies. It looks good out there right now. Started off on the cool side with even temperatures in the 40s in the higher elevations of the North Georgia mountains. Can you believe it? 85 for the high on Wednesday. We're going to modify that temperature a bit. You're going up to 88 on Thursday. By Friday, we're looking at 89, so back close to the 90-degree mark. Still a little low humidity around, so it's not going to feel as bad, but it will be hot. 87 degrees over the upcoming weekend. We have a few clouds moving back into the forecast area, both Saturday and Sunday, but we'll be at 87, which is close to where we should be for this time of year, and then back to near 90 as we head into Monday under partly sunny skies. Now keep in mind, when you look at the 7-day outlook, there's no raindrops. Yes, it's going to be dry around the forecast area. New drought monitor will come out by Thursday. We'll see where we stand. We were sitting pretty as far as the rainfall amounts go, but we'll see what happens after this dry stretch. Certainly it feels nice right now, so take advantage of it while you can. All right, if you're finding it kind of hard to shed pounds during the summer months, now, based on new research, you can blame it on the weather. Don't do it. Ice cream, frozen desserts, and cold sodas feel like a must-have during hot temperatures, but new research suggests that Americans are consuming more and more and more. Researchers use data from the U.S. household food purchasing between 2004 and 2019, allowing them to track long-term tracking of families over a period of time there. They also compared purchasing decisions with regional weather data, including temperature and humidity. Research found that as the temperature goes up, people consume more sugar, most likely from sugary sweetened drinks. For every 1.8 degree temperature rise, sugar consumption increases by 0.7 grams. Hotter weather obviously makes the body lose water, causing people to crave hydration and cooling, hence reaching for a sugary drink. Now, as temperatures continue to go up, maybe you need to resist, folks. We remind you all the time here that you should drink water, water, water. You know, drinking sugary drinks brings on serious health impacts like obesity, diabetes, and cardiovascular disease. So water, 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 at least from our department, since we have to deal with the weather as well. It's the best way to hydrate and you don't start gaining. That's all the time we have for you today, folks. Make sure you encourage someone to drink water as the temperature starts to go up this week. By the end of the week, it will be hot again. Enjoy today.